Once again, as we start Black History Month, we're all about honoring Black Changemakers. And we're honored to welcome in two-time Olympic gold medalist in the sport of swimming, Cullen Jones, to the show, joining us via Skype. Cullen, what's happening, my man? How you
What's
doing?
going on, Jason? Thanks for having me.
You know what? I also wanted to bring you on the show because I got to thank you for letting me cheat off of your anthropology back in early 2000s when we were at NC State.
I wasn't going to bring it up. I wasn't going to bring it up,
All right. So once again, Cullen, world record holder, two-time Olympic gold medalist, going to two different Olympics. We're going to go through the whole story, Cullen. But I want to start. Oh, he bought it. He bought the gold, baby. He bought the gold home. I want to start with the story you've openly shared, right? People just assume one is born an Olympic swimmer. Tell us the story about how you got into the sport of swimming.
Actually, first off, I'm going to say the worst airport is definitely Newark, because I think the last time I flew, they said the wing fell off and there was a hole in the front. There's always Newark for me. I'm always getting it. But that being said, born in New York, grew up in New Jersey, and I was actually at Dorney Park, which thank you to all of the lifeguards that were there, but I had never had swim lessons. So I ended up going down the ride, and my mom was there, my dad was there. So I think what's the most important piece of this was I was fully supervised, and I was still able to go down and flip upside down. I had to be fully resuscitated, but in true form, you know me, Jason. My first words were, "What's the next ride we getting on?" Because I was an only child at a water park, and I was not ready to leave.
Yeah, I mean, it was a scary moment, right? Like potentially near
Absolutely.
drowning, but that inspired you to get into the sport of swimming. But that had to be
Yeah.
an interesting sport to get into at a young age. Not a lot of people look like me and you when you're
Yeah.
competing in, junior and middle school and high school swim teams.
Absolutely. Again, born in the Bronx, grew up in Newark, Irvington, New Jersey. Everyone around me played, either they ran track or played football or basketball. So me walking around in these tight, small, brief Speedos running around, definitely got picked on a little bit, but it was definitely the sport that called me. I played basketball. I loved it. But the thing about it is that when I was giving it 100% and someone else was, phoning it in, it bothered me that we lost. And the thing about swimming was what I put into it, I got out of it. Unfortunately, in the beginning, I was not good. Pink and purple ribbons all day. It wasn't great, but I loved it. I stuck with it, and through time and practice and a lot of training, I got better at swimming.
Got good enough to once again get a scholarship swim at North Carolina State, the fine aquatics program that is.
Yes, yes.
But he knows what it is. But then you also went on to compete for this country. Let's take you to
Yeah.
2008. You set a world record, becoming the first African American to set a world record in swimming. Now I know as a
Yes.
competitor in the moment you're just focused on your time and hitting your marks. But how long did it take for it to kind of sink in that you had made history in the pool?
I think it still takes time to set in. I definitely every February when I see young swimmers and just young students in general putting together these amazing Black History reports, and I'm blessed enough to grace them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of brought back to that moment. It's still the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, but it was definitely the one of the finer moments of my life. But I think one of the things that I did after that with trying to get kids to learn to swim and try to spread the importance of water safety was just as important as winning gold for me.
Yeah, you've touched on that, given your experience, near drowning as a youngster. How is it now teaching young African Americans to be comfortable and enjoy and learn water safety through your Make a Splash
I
campaign?
think that Yeah, I think that's why I had such a long career, 13 years. Every
Mhm.
time that I was teaching someone else, I kind of saw myself in those swimmers, whether it be they were afraid of being in the water, or they were, a great swimmer trying to get to that next level. I always took being a role model very personal, and definitely took it as a badge of honor. I didn't have people that looked like me. I always looked up to, Kobe and I were close to age, so when I got older and got to actually meet him, definitely looked up to him and Mamba mentality. But I grew up watching Jordan, so when I hear swimmers that say they looked up to me and they've been watching me, I take a lot of pride in that. So as I have retired now,
Mhm.
and I get to watch all of these young swimmers, and I was on pool deck when I was the only Black person. I went to a pro series a couple of weeks ago, and there were 12 people of color swimming. We're seeing that the sport is starting to mirror what the U.S. looks like, and that's really my goal now at this point. My son likes to swim. I want him to feel comfortable coming into the sport, in a sport that, and maybe I had some negative experiences. I don't want him to have to feel that.
What does it feel like? Because that's a quick turnaround. You think about, you were competing for the
Yeah,
United States of America 2008,
yeah.
2012. Here we are 2023, and we're seeing representation, true representation at the national level.
I mean, to be honest with you, Jason, I started to try to push the needle in 2008, and I never would have thought that I would have seen it in my lifetime,
Hmm.
honestly. So to be able to see so many people like Simone Manuel, so many people like Reese Whitley, Shane Cassis, all of these great swimmers coming up, and really pushing that mantle even further, it gives my heart joy. So I love that I'm able to continue to work in the sport, can continue to be able to have an influence on the sport, but to see this next generation so quickly, it's a blessing, man. That's the only way I can say it.
You mentioned Simone Manuel, first African American woman to get a gold medal in 2016.
Yeah,
What's your relationship like with her? And I know as a fan of the sport, you
yeah,
celebrate her, but as African American, to watch
absolutely.
her create her own lane and push, basically pick up, take the relay, if you will. I know your success in the 4 by
Yeah,
100. Take the relay and take that next leg of it.
I'll be honest. Like in 2016, I missed that Rio Games by so small of a margin. I was in a dark spot
Mm.
because I just knew I was going to make that team. And then I remember watching Simone touch first, and I'm telling you, there were just tears coming down. I was just so proud to see her accomplish that, and to see what she's continued to do, to see as more and more people of color progress into the sport. It does, like I said, it does my heart well. But to watch her win that 100 free and get that gold medal was something special.
Obviously, we're focused on the national level, but we all know that it starts at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
What's it like? You touch on seeing the players, or the swimmers rather, competitors meet there, but what is it like when you go around the country and you see a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old say, I
Yeah.
want to swim?
I love it. I never tell someone not to do, some what people would consider mainstream sports. I always say, try something different, dare to be different. That's always been my slogan. So when I see young swimmers or young people of color come and look at me and say, I want to swim, again, as a role model, it does my heart joy. And I just want to be able to help them in any way. So I'm always get talk to me on social media. I'm very responsive. I want to make sure that I can help you in any stage of development that you're in. I've felt all of it. I've been the only Black person on the team. I've dealt with racism. I've dealt with all these things. Let me show you what I've been through to maybe help you to continue to get to that next level. So when I see these young folks that want to get into the sport of swimming, the biggest thing that I want to do is encourage them. This is a sport for you. Please come. Not to mention, swimming is a life skill. I think when we start looking at the statistics, 64% of Black Americans don't know how to swim, 54
Mm.
of Latinos don't know how to swim, and 38% of Caucasians don't know how to swim. So look, it's a U.S. problem. So when I hear people wanting to swim, I encourage it all the way.
That's interesting, right? Because we often hear, Black people don't swim, or they're shocked that
Yeah.
African Americans do swim. And that's a
Right.
U.S. problem, because you go to Africa, you go to the Caribbean, a number of the African diaspora are enjoying water sports and very talented swimmers, right?
Absolutely. When I went to my first Olympics, I made friends with so many people that were part of Team Nigeria in
Mhm.
South Africa, and I was just kind of, not that I was blown away. I knew that was definitely a standard. I knew that there were swimmers of color, the Black African swimmers, Caribbean swimmers, but to see so many at the Olympics was just, it was amazing. And that's one of the things that I try to bring home to the U.S. when I'm talking to swimmers. They say, I'm the only person. I'm like, well, you know what? That's here, and we're changing that. When you go outside the country, you will see more people that look like you. Don't worry. Go in here, understand that the water's for you, and more importantly, just learn to swim.
You said something earlier about getting sponsors involved. The business side of the sport, have you seen them kind of gravitate more? Obviously, after your success, followed up with Simone's, have you seen them gravitate more to supporting the growth of swimming in the African American community?
You know, I especially after George Floyd, I was in, again, another dark place because I started thinking about my son and this next generation. And that's what really focused me towards the business side of trying to still influence the sport in a positive way. When you say companies coming into it, I am so proud of our national governing body, USA Swimming, and what they did. I mean, right after George Floyd, they came out with a response that really supported the Black community and especially their Black athletes. We also contribute to gold medals, and to have our national governing body stand behind us, it means a lot. There is still a lot to be done.
For sure.
And there are a lot of companies that I wish would push a little harder. But that's what I'm here for. I'm working on it.
Yeah, obviously the work you've been doing since your post-swimming now in your retirement career has been monumental, saving lives and helping to grow the sport. Now, I do want to take you back to 2008. Every year, every Summer Olympics, we see this video pop up, right? The most iconic photo from, honestly, most iconic video and moment from that Olympics. The 4x100 with you, Jason Lesack, Garrett Weber-Gale, and Michael Phelps winning that 4x100 relay. When you see that, that's the gold medal. That's the gold medal. When you see that video every 4 years, you're hugging Michael, y'all are hugging each other, you know, he's giving you that whole pose. What goes through your mind?
I'm honestly shot right back to that moment. You know, when we actually won, you can't just do it justice. It goes so fast. You're whipped around, you're sitting on the podium saying our national anthem, and then you just have the memory. So every, 4 years or any time that I'm able to speak to a group, when I do public speaking, or, whenever someone shows me that video, I'm able to really just relive that moment and to tell that story. It is a surreal experience. We've had a couple of times where the four of us have been together, and there's just like a smile, like, wow, we really did that. We would have never expected. I mean, France had us beat 100% of the time. If you run that back, 9 times out of 10, France wins. But one of those miracle moments. We only got second in views that year to the Super Bowl. So it was one of those moments that I'll never forget. But every time I see it, man, I'm shot right back to that moment. And usually I have to catch my breath.
Well, you know what, man? We're all taken to that moment because you were Black excellence in the pool, letting Simone Manuel know that can be her 8 years later, and letting a swimmer today know that that can be them in Los Angeles in 2024. Cullen, as always, thank you so much. We're going to have you on much more, especially as we continue to cover the sport of swimming and continue to do the great work you're doing. Cullen Jones, everybody, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. And once again, an African-American changemaker.
And I'll be back.
Yeah, you'll be back, man. You'll be back. African-American changemaker Cullen Jones joining us. Thank you so much. We have much more of the backup plan coming up right after this.